Hi Aquarius, and welcome to your February 2024 horoscope. I hope you're excited for the month ahead because it's going to be an eventful month. Even though February is a short month, all of the planets are going to be in conversation one day or another. So all of us, no matter if we're more influenced by Mars or Venus or Pluto, all of us are going to be impacted, whether positively or in a more challenging way. Let's get into what this month means for you personally. We start off the month on February 6th with Venus squaring the nodes and the Sun trining and sextiling the nodes. All of us collectively are learning how to set boundaries and how to stop compromising where we don't want to compromise. And on this day, your ego might especially be feeling very nice with all the boundary setting. But at the same time, you have relationships and you realize that sometimes they do require compromise. So this is a very interesting day in trying to find the balance between the two. The next day, 7th of February, continues to be just as eventful. We have the Sun squaring Uranus, Venus trining Uranus, and Mars sextiling Neptune. With Mars in your 12th house, you might be taking some actions regarding your mental health that feel really aligned and really in the flow. It's as if you channeled some sort of wisdom from, a source above that actually contributes to a really wonderful aspect to your soul's evolution. To those that don't know you very well, looking on the outside in, you might appear quite strange to them because of this action. It might appear like you're a bit out of the box, a bit eccentric. We're talking about Uranus after all. Just remember during this day that those that do know you, those that are close to you, will see these actions and will recognize how aligned they are to your true self. On the 9th of February, we have a new moon in your first house. So Pluto has entered your first house. It did that on January 21st. I want you to reflect back and see if anything specific happened around January 21st, because this new moon will allow you to do things differently. It'll allow you to have a new beginning in that area. So if on the 21st you felt like you wish something went a little bit differently, you wish that you had acted in a different way, then this new moon is a perfect time to do that. On February 12th, we have Venus sextiling Neptune. Aquarius, you have had quite a time the last 15 years with Pluto in your 12th house, really learning to let go of everything that doesn't serve you, especially in regards to your subconscious beliefs. And now that Pluto has left your 12th house, and now that Mars and Venus are about to as well, I really see this as a period where you integrate everything that you learned. And especially because Venus is having such a beautiful sextile with Neptune, it's almost as if you're able to see sort of the silver lining of all of the hard things that you've been through. You're able to see the beautiful spiritual lessons and the beautiful soul evolution that these lessons have brought you to. On the 13th of February, Mars enters Aquarius, or your first house, and it conjuncts Pluto. Mars and Pluto together can be a lot of energy. You might literally feel it in your body, especially because for you, Aquarius, it's in your first house, the house of the body. Take a look at where you're directing this energy. Make sure you're directing it towards something meaningful, something that you actually care about, and not towards petty things or things that won't matter in 5 years from now. A couple of days later, on February 16th, Venus will also enter Aquarius, or your first house, and conjunct Pluto. So something is happening with your relationship and it's a bit triggering, which is all right. I mean, relationships are a big trigger for a lot of us because you're so intimate and so close to another person. So all of your little annoyances and fears get pulled right out of you for sure. Keep in mind that there's no rush to sort of like resolve any of this or to act in a perfect way, because you are human after all. Pluto gives you quite a few years to work with this transit. So I would say these couple of days, the 13th to the 16th of February, to just be compassionate with yourself. When things feel a little bit less emotionally intense, then it's maybe a good idea to sit down and reflect on what you've been learning and experiencing and how you want to move forward. On the 19th of February, the Sun enters Pisces, or your second house. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. So I want you to consider February 19th as sort of the start of December, the last month of the year. And I want you to take some time to reflect on the last year and reflect on what you want to let go of. And especially for you, being in your second house, what you want to let go of in terms of your resources, your money, the things that bring you value and a self-confidence. You know, perhaps you feel like you have an unhealthy relationship with money and you want to let that go in the upcoming year. Perhaps you feel like you rely too much on stuff to give you a sense of self-confidence and you want to work on improving that in the next year. On the 21st of February, Venus and Mars are conjunct in your first house. Venus and Mars together can also produce strong emotions. Venus is passion, Mars is action. So there might be a lot of excitement on this day. You might actually also, Aquarius, because this is in your first house, you might be like very charismatic and people might just be loving you on this day as well. But I think because both Venus and Mars sort of touched Pluto on their way into your first house, I do think that this day will still bring up some of those perhaps triggering events, some of those fears that we're still afraid of around our identity and our weird selves. On February 24th, there is a full moon in Virgo in your 8th house. And during this full moon, we also have a square between Venus and Jupiter. The sun is shining a bright light on your 8th house, and it's giving you some clarity around anything that you were unsure of in terms of vulnerability in your relationships. Perhaps you had some debts that you also weren't sure of. Perhaps you were sort of sharing resources with somebody else, and there was some unclarity around that as well. And this clarity might bring you a sense of relief, and you might feel like celebrating, letting go a bit. Just keep in mind that Venus square Jupiter can lead to overindulgence. So just keep that in mind so that you don't go overboard on this day. 2 days later, on the 26th, Mars also squares Jupiter. So Mars is action, Jupiter is optimism, and together it might mean that you are taking some impulsive actions around your identity and your body. You know, it's really this sort of transit of like, oh my gosh, I'm going to color my hair pink. And then you go ahead and do it right away. And Aquarius, I'm all for you coloring your hair pink. My one piece of advice would be just to wait a couple of days, maybe wait a week. And if coloring your hair pink still feels just as exciting and just as amazing as it did before, then go for it. And please send me your photos because I'd love to see it. On February 28th, the Sun and Saturn are conjunct in your second house. So Saturn entered your second house in March of 2023. And there might have been some responsibility since then that you've been feeling in regards to your money and your resources. Perhaps you've had to work super hard lately to just get money, to survive and to provide for yourself. And on this day, because the Sun is conjunct Saturn, this might feel especially heavy and especially pessimistic. It might feel like there's no hope and there's no light at the end of the tunnel. I want you to remember that that's a trick that Saturn can play on us. But in the end, what Saturn wants is for us to continue showing up day after day and putting in the work. We finish off the last day of the month on February 29th, the same way we started the month, with a conversation between Venus and the nodes. This time, though, Venus is trining and sextiling the nodes. So I do see this as a sort of repetition of what was happening earlier in the month. But this time, if you did take a look at the lessons, you integrated them, you showed up for them, you felt how they were making you feel, then it's almost like we're closing off the month with really realizing the nuances of setting boundaries and compromising. And it's almost as if you're realizing that setting boundaries can actually lead to deeper and more meaningful relationships. So Aquarius, there's a lot happening for you this month in regards to your identity. You're probably asking yourself quite a bit, like, who am I? What am I doing in this world? But also in regards to your resources, probably money is really on your mind. And probably because of that, you're also really sort of questioning yourself and the confidence you have in yourself and who you are. I know that you can do it, Aquarius. I know it maybe feels quite strong sometimes, but you got this. I hope you enjoyed this horoscope, and I hope it provided some comfort for you as well. If you want to make sure you catch the March horoscopes, then make sure you subscribe. I hope to see you again soon.